Well, I can't believe they let an amateur like you step into the ring.
Every time you so much as open that cruddy pie hole of yours, all you do is prove to the world that you are the biggest dumbass alive.
Hey guys, Nick here, and today we are getting into part 4 of What If Eastman Survived, where last time we covered Eastman's entrance into Alexandria and him promising to help out Pete, whom he saw just killed Reg and Rick was about to kill. But he offered the solution to help him and see what he could do, Rick taking him up on it since he saved Morgan and Morgan saved him, so it's kind of like a cycle. Carol being the only real one not to believe it, and Eastman paying Pete a visit. Now we get into the season 6 time skip, where we see if it will actually pay off. Well, everything that went on at the beginning of season 6 pretty much plays out as you would expect, but with a very big change. Pete is actually being taught Aikido. Now, I know this probably wouldn't come as a surprise to many, considering the fact how crazy Morgan was. And Pete, he was kind of like in the same boat. He wasn't like too far off from how Morgan was. So, he slowly but surely gets changed into a different person. And this shocks pretty much a lot of people, mainly the likes of Michonne, Jesse, Daryl, Deanna, and Rick. Rick, not so much, but everybody else, you can bet that they're all surprised at this and what this progress of Eastman's entailed. But Rick, like I said, not so much. He kind of expected this from how Morgan changed. And Morgan, he ain't surprised at all. If anything, he's just more amazed at what Eastman could do, especially considering the fact how well he helped him, and just sits and smiles, knowing that it was all for a good effort. Carol, though, she still doesn't believe this. She still believes that either, number one, Eastman put on some kind of, trick or, stage or something, or Pete's just playing along to try and, maybe use some kind of edge against Eastman and the community. It just basically comes down to Carol, with her past traumatic experience with Ed and everything, at playing a huge factor here. Soon enough, after Pete has fully been rehabilitated by Eastman, which is, like I said, right near the beginning of season 6 before they go to the quarry, Pete goes to talk to Rick and says that he has a lot to talk about with him, and he is wishing to start over. Whenever they first met, he bets Rick that thought that he wasn't really that bad of a guy, and then everything happened, and it, probably made Rick just, want to kill him. He wasn't likable, but he wants to start over, and he admits that not only did he hurt him and threaten to kill him and everything, he got Reg killed and really just caused a whole ruckus for the community. And he never meant for anything like that. He just wasn't just in his right state of mind. He just was not good. But Rick and everybody else should know that more than anybody, what, the apocalypse can do to a person and everything like that. And he wishes to start over with Rick, and especially start things over with his family. He's now going to use Aikido and continue his medical profession even more, since he lacked a lot of that. And he is going to help Tara and everybody that he can, and use the Aikido not to fight with them and go with them, but to protect his family and make up with them. Eastman then comes and hears everything and says that he is very proud of how far Pete has come, and this goes as a "I told you so" to Pete. That his practices, what he does, and everything, it didn't just work with Morgan. And he goes to say that he is very happy with Pete for his decision with his family and everything like that, and hopes that everything goes all right. He's not going. He's still staying at Alexandria, but he's just saying to Pete that he hopes everything goes okay. Now, Deanna, I said that she would be much more on board and much more calm, especially with Eastman around for things and all that. But I'm not going to say that she fully 110% forgives Pete. Because, hey, Maggie got, whenever Glenn got killed, and Maggie's just now forgiving Negan all the way in. So it's still going to take time for her to, like, forgive Pete, if ever. But she is proud of what Eastman's done to fix him. Especially after what's all just happened since Rick and them came around and everything. Jesse? This surprises her probably the most out of pretty much most of the people here. That the man who, you know, hit her and even her kid, Sam, and just did all this stuff is actually seemingly changed. But before Pete rejoins them and actually, like, you know, fully makes up with them, she's still going to take a lot of time to trust him again. But she also remembers something else. She remembers Rick, who, after all this, and after Pete just had the talk and everything, because they're all around at this time, obviously, Rick's just looking at Jesse and then just looks away like a happy, sort of sad smile, you know? Because he didn't expect Pete to ever change or even for him to live, honestly, before Eastman stopped him. Jesse comes over and talks to him, saying that she really is thankful for everything that Rick did to protect her and everything like that. She will take everything he has said to heart. And just because they won't be together, possibly for the foreseeable future, if ever, she will always respect him for what he did for her and Sam and Ron. And with that, Pete, soon enough, comes back into the house with his family after some time of, you know, after everything happened. And even though Sam and Jesse, they take some time to get back into the fold and see if Pete's actually not going to flip his switch again and, you know, be all crazy and abusive, it actually manages to work. But Ron, oh, you know he's still going to love his dad either way, because he was all mad even when he got killed and everything. It just goes to show that Ron did not care if his father was a bad man. Carol, she's much more, like, I'm not going to say much more. She is definitely a little better feeling about Pete, but she, like I said, traumatic past with Ed, and the fact that everything he did, it really just doesn't sit with her right. For now. She's going to watch him and wait to see if something happens. But she doesn't have to. Because soon enough, we get to the wolves attacking Alexandria. And the only difference here is that Eastman is around and Pete is alive and knows Aikido. And another big difference that comes up is that Ron is not going to hate Carl or Rick because Pete is still alive and Eastman stopped Rick from killing him. So that means that we're not going to get Ron pursuing Carl or them arguing or any kind of thing like that. If anything, the friendship that they had going before, you know, everything happened, whenever they first met, that would continue to evolve and be much more better. Then Morgan meets the wolves in the middle of the street and second in command that he did on the road. But he's not alone with these wolves like he was in the original for long, because soon enough, Eastman comes with Owen and his grasp of his stick, replicating the scene of him doing the very same tactic maneuver against his second in command. But this time, he caught Owen trying to go into their house, Morgan's house more specifically. I feel like Eastman, I don't know whether he would have his own house or whether he would, like, be with Morgan. I can't really say for sure. Either way, it replicates the fact that Owen and his second in command were put on two sides of Eastman's stick, if you know what I mean. Now, this time it's not just Morgan, but Eastman who tell every one of the wolves. Now, Owen being out in the forefront because of Eastman's involvement, to get out of here and never come back, and warn that even though pretty much everyone has come on to terms with Eastman's help, they still have guns, and there's no way that they're going to get out of this without possibly getting shot. And if they do, they could die. Owen just looks at his wolves, who are slowly starting to not run away this time, but actually start to listen. And, you know, even though the second in command, that guy, he said that they didn't choose and then they just ran off and Rick killed them anyway. This time that ain't happening. They're just sitting there processing what Eastman and Morgan have just said. But Owen says that they can't be serious about listening to these two. If being compassionate and sparing people was definitely something that they were, you know, comfortable with, they would dishonor all the wolves had become and be just like the people that they had killed. Will the wolves actually listen to Eastman and Morgan? Or has Owen's words swayed them back? And that's where we leave things for the moment. Hope you guys liked this episode and the wolves coming into the forefront, with Eastman's involvement slowly but surely, especially with Pete, mattering a lot more and slowly building up his character. I know that Flayed Billy edits, he said that Eastman wasn't truly a big character, but he is. And if you watch my first part, I explain more why, and you'll see more in the story. Like and subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.
Look on the bright side. At least you're gonna get beat by a real champ.
If you press me again, you a dead man.